Hello, I'm Jamie, and this is Supplier to News. For today's topic, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to be covering a recent The Root article where they reveal a recent survey covered by Pew Research Center discussing kind of the demographic breakdown of people who identify as black in America. Some pretty interesting stuff. We're definitely going to speak about this in a moment. But before we do, as always, if you like the content that we're providing, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment, it does help with the algorithm. Really appreciate that type of support. And also, and lastly, but also most importantly, share it with other people who you think may be interested in this kind of content. Now, I typically talk about small businesses, supply diversity, which covers diverse businesses as well. This is something that, may not be very specific to business itself, but still kind of interesting in terms of the population breakdown and what could eventually lead to a change in how businesses operate, or I guess the makeup more so of businesses. So let's go ahead and get started. As you can see here, a recent analysis from the most recent American Community Survey, which has polled over 3 million people, has showed that there is a change in the black population, or people at least who identify as black in America. Again, this was done by the Pew Research Center studying the American Community Survey. So, according to the survey, it shows that the black population in America has increased by 29% since 2000, with 46.8 million people identifying as black. Now, this is 14%, which is around what black people have always made up in America. African Americans initially, or Negro, then African American, going up to black. It's around between 12 and 14% historically. What makes this pretty interesting is the change in the type of people who are now identifying as black. So you have a couple of quotes here from people, kind of talking about the study, but the real crux of it is here now. As you can see here, immigrants are accounting for some of the increase in America's black population. More than 4 million black people in America, or 10% of the demographic, are foreign-born. This is up from 1.9 million single-race, non-Hispanic black people in America who were foreign-born in 2000. So as you can see, over the past 20 years, there has been an over 2 million increase in the amount of people who are foreign-born who are coming over and saying that they identify as black. Now, the real big piece here is the rapid growth of Latin American population who are now identifying as black. So you can see here, U.S. Census survey questions that now allow for people to identify as multiple races is a potential driver for this increase. So, now in the census, you can pick multiple races. People from Latin communities are now identifying as Latin as well as black, depending upon where they're coming from, which has driven a massive 145% increase of Latin and Hispanic people in America who identify as black in 2019. Compared to 2000. The biggest shift we've seen is from Venezuela and Dominican Republicans who have now seen identifying as black. There is actually I saw this video initially like last year. Godfrey, who is a comedian, a Nigerian comedian who was talking about Dominicans and and their identification or lack thereof of being black. But it's kind of funny. You should definitely check it out. But yep. So as we move forward, in addition to Hispanics being able to identify as multi-races, there's also been an argument, two big arguments here that's made in the article. Number one is that there is now a relearning, if you will, of African history in the Caribbean and South America. As you know, if you're not aware, when it comes to the slave trade, when we're talking about Africa when you talk to Europeans sending Africans to the West, only a small percentage actually went to America, right, to the 13 colonies at the time. Or as it grew, but so it was about, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 10% of Africans actually went to America. The rest the largest percentage actually went to Brazil. But there's a wide variety of African, African people and African bloodline in South America more so than America when you kind of do the comparison. So kind of a relearning of that history is what, the argument is, that people are now more so identifying as black. But in addition to this, and the big piece here is that, and it kind of says here, Cardi B is making the argument that, she's identifying, that she should be allowed to identify as black. But the key piece here, in my opinion, is the term black, right? So initially, black Americans were described as like Negro. Now we have, then after that, it was a really big popular term to describe blacks as African American. And when you're asking people, if they identify as African American is a very specific term, right? What it may say is, either you're from Africa, the continent of Africa, so African American, or, what at the time, I know when I was born and when I was growing up, African American was a big term to describe those of, African descendants of slaves that were born in America, right? So that term may have also led to Latin Americans and Caribbean, well, maybe not necessarily Caribbeans, but like Latin Americans specifically, to not identify as African American. But now the term has changed to black. I think that, that whole blackness piece, more people can get behind, because, race is a little bit tricky, if you will, when it talks about America and how it's described and how it's utilized. The definition of race in America is something that has undergone changes over time, and it's very unique to this particular country versus if you look anywhere else. It's especially in history, like it's you hear race as a construct, and that is, it's just kind of historically that is absolutely true in terms of how we've broken it down. But regardless, we're seeing that growth, in my opinion, is mainly because people can now just simply identify as black, which is a different connotation than, African American or Negro in the past. So in my opinion, that's kind of the biggest piece in terms of why people are identifying that as that. With that being said, as you can see, it's definitely a growth when it comes to foreign born. I do believe that's just going to simply increase, especially as more Latin Americans are identifying as black. So we are seeing a little bit of a shift in the breakdown of black Americans. How will that, move to the future? I can't say, today, right? It's something that we're going to have to see over time. We are seeing more people, biracial heritage, becoming, more popular, such as, our vice president, heck, our, first black president. So how that's broken down and how that's seen and how that's identified is something that we're living through, how we're working through that. So just pretty interesting in terms of the population breakdown. I have consistently made the argument that, demographics will get more diverse as we move more into the future, and kind of seeing this and understanding, as we move forward, how is that going to be broken down when we're talking about initiatives that some companies are doing, focusing on, black people. How is that going to work when we're talking about, again, funding for different types of, peoples? Like how exactly will that be broken down moving into the future? I don't know. But what we are seeing is a change in people who are identifying as that. And, based on their bloodline and their history, they do qualify as African, right? Some people probably more African than some people in America, which is, or, in terms of historically, and in terms of, when you break down people by their, what's it called? Ancestry, kind of looking at that, they may be more African than those in America. So it's just really so interesting and how, things are just changing and shifting, and our idea of what black is just, just changing so quickly. It's very interesting. So figured I take a look at this and, talk to you guys about it. Again, this is something that can or most definitely will be impacting us over the next 20 years, especially when we see more organizations looking to invest in these communities, understanding this change in dynamic, and what they can do to assist. So, or I'm not assist, support. So, with that being said, as always, thank you so much for listening to, this explanation that I have. If you liked the video, please, if you made it this far, thank you so much, and subscribe to the video or subscribe to the page. Really appreciate that. Leave a like. Comment, and if you know other people who may be interested in this content, make sure you share the video. So with that being said, thank you so much for your time and have a great day.